What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the By the Hood podcast or webcast because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy, and as we start off every show, that is with gratitude. Shout out to anybody who supports anything we got going on. Special shout out to all the students from By the Hood University, all of our members from MDC Strategy, and the youth from the By the Hood Ownership Camp. Also, special shout out to all of our new YouTube subscribers. The page is growing, and we definitely appreciate you. And if you are listening to this on the audio, shout out to you as well, because our audio has always been our strongest following, and you guys hold us down and listen every week, and we appreciate that.
It is though.
Hey man, it is what it is, man. Every day above ground's a good day, as you say.
Every day above ground's a good day.
Yeah, man. Shout out to my older coach when I used to complain about stuff. He used to say, "Did you die?" You know what I mean? Like, but shout out to Mr. Anderson. With that being said, though, our podcast is dropping a day later, but we still gonna make sure we get some content out every week. Been doing a lot of work, man. I just came from a community event this evening. Course is getting settled down in Houston. And we also had an amazing Bitcoin masterclass this past Tuesday in our private group. So shout out to everybody who tuned in live and those that watched that on the replay. Man, it was a couple hours of just nonstop, like just fire, talking about one of my favorite things. Anyway, before we get started in today's episode, everybody, man, do all the YouTubing stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, give us feedback, share this out, all that good stuff, man. But today we got an interesting conversation, Core. And I know, Core, this literally, today as we record this, I don't know when you're watching, listening, this news just broke. But I want to get your opinion on this, right? For those that are listening to the audio, I will post a link so you can read the article, and I'll read some of it, just so you get a gist of the conversation we are about to have. So, the nation's largest credit union rejected more than half of its Black conventional mortgage applications. This article comes from CNN, and it is in reference to Navy Federal Credit Union, which a lot of people are members of, including myself. It's not my, biggest account that I use, but I do have an account here with Navy Federal. Got a card with them, got a couple different lines of credit. I got all kinds of stuff with Navy Federal, but sounds like a lot of my people won't be able to get no business there, man. So to read a little bit of the article, and again, I'm going to make sure I cite this correctly. The author, Casey Tolan, Audrey Ash, and Renee Marsh from CNN. The article says that the largest credit union in the U.S. has the wildest disparity in mortgage approval rates between white and Black borrowers, of a trend that reached new heights last year, a CNN analysis found. Now, I'm going to read a couple things. There's only a couple paragraphs that's going to take you to get the gist of this whole thing. Navy Federal Credit Union, which lends to military service members and veterans, approved more than 75 home purchase mortgage in 2022. According to the most recent data available from Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, but less than 50% of Black homeowners who apply for the same type of loan. While many banks also approve white applicants at higher rates than Black borrowers, the nearly 29 percentage point gap in Navy Federal's approval rates was the widest of any of the fifth. Hear this part. The disparity remains even among white and Black applicants who had similar incomes and debt-to-income ratios. Notably, Navy Federal approved a slightly higher percentage of applications from white borrowers making less than $62,000 a year than it did of Black borrowers making $140,000 or more. Let me read that last sentence. I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying, Cora. It says they approved a higher percentage of white people making less than 62 than they did Black people making 140 or more. All right, Cora, one more time for you. Slow it down. I just dissed you. All right, it says they approved more white borrowers making less than $62K than it did of Black borrowers making 140 or more. I don't think I have to read any more of this article. It gets more into the data and all this malarkey. I will, however, share the link to this in the description of the video if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, which is where our podcast airs. If you're listening to the audio, I will put it in the show notes so you can click and read about what's going on with Navy Federal. And I read that 3 times on purpose. That's my Umar Jones. You gotta say it a couple times for effect. Yeah. My brother, what do you think about that?
They trash. It's just put it in a couple words. They're trash. The numbers tell a story. You know what I mean? Like predatory and discriminatory lending practices. I mean, that follows us wherever and whatever we do. So it don't even make no difference where you banking at. And this is why the conventional banking system is going to, have to mutate for Black people. Because, after we talk about Bitcoin so much and just hearing this and then having the information I have about Bitcoin separate and cryptocurrency as a whole makes me never want to use a bank again. You had to get me into using banks because when we started out 8 years ago, I had a bank account, but I never used my bank account. I just had it open.
So here's what's interesting about our system, our current system, which is why I shouldn't say most, because most will be a lie, which is why a lot of folks just say trash the whole system. Because in our current system, the banks run the world. Let's just keep it a buck, right? Like let's just say what it is. The banks run the world. They control politics, they control education, they control everything. But what's interesting about this is a couple things. So I've been online today as I saw this news break, and I was like, we're going to talk about this tonight. But I saw some of the things like, Navy Federal, that makes sense because that's where everybody was running a play and doing PPP scams back in 2019, right? And I laughed at it because initially I'm like, all right, that's a funny joke, but it's not true. There's no truth to that. I'm going to explain to you why. I've been a member of Wells Fargo for a while. I don't even really keep money in there, but I have the account because in Philadelphia, they are huge. So when someone writes me a check or something, because folks like to write funny checks, I pop it on Wells Fargo right away to make sure they ain't trying to play no games with me. All right, that's one thing. Also, just because I've had the account and I don't have to pay any fees for leaving it, so I keep it. But what's interesting about having a Wells Fargo account, I swear on everything, I get so many. I've gotten more class action money from Wells Fargo. And I was jokingly telling people like, every year I get a check from Wells Fargo that has nothing to do with dividends. It has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that they got caught up in some nonsense.
You should buy some Wells Fargo stock with the Wells Fargo checks. Then
when I look it up, JP Morgan is no different, right? Citigroup is no different.
They're not.
And I say that to say this data says that this is the worst disparity. But they also indicate within this article that the disparity is there everywhere. Right. And the reason I read that one sentence is because think about this. If you're white and you're 62,000, you're getting approved at a higher rate than Black folks that make $140 and everything else being equal. It says same debt to income ratio, everything else equal. So if they do it, you don't think everybody does it? Right.
Well, I know 100% everybody else does it. I'm not saying that they're trash and then in a vacuum. I'm saying that the whole banking is a charade, man. Like we played some clips from for the kids during the summertime about banking, and it's a farce sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. I mean,
it's ridiculous. Like it's ridiculous, and the things that they do to our communities sometimes are it's criminal. Like I don't even know how to put it without saying it. Like, that kind of discrimination is criminal because what it does is it drains wealth out of communities. It drains the wealth out of the Black community.
Yes, it does. I remember my grandfather, and at the time I didn't understand what he meant by it because I was sometimes old heads be talking over your head and then you realize like 25 years later, like, okay. He used to always tell me, hey, you got to bank local. You got to bank local. And if you want to get anything out of the institution, you got to bank local and small. And I was like, what are you talking about, dog? Like, take me to Burger King. You talking about banking local. I don't care about but I understood what he mean, right? So the night that we're recording this, actually this came from a meeting with a local bank. And with the local bank, some of the money they're trying to put in the community, it's like, it's a little different, right? Community.
Local banks are.
But it's not to say they're not part of the same system. But what I'm saying is in terms of being able to leverage these institutions for your own good. Right, because it's one thing to think, let's just trash the whole system, but in reality, is that going to happen?
Never worry.
So now, how do we navigate the world using these things to our advantage? How do we get spaces?
Do what your old head said, and
Yeah, bank
use
local.
use the because they actually depend on the communities that they're in. Those
Mm-hmm.
local banks need those accounts to
Yes.
keep running, and so what he was saying is basically go where your power is at. Those local banks need your accounts, where these
So
national chains don't actually need your accounts to keep doing whatever
no,
they.
because they got all the other institutions' money in there too, right?
Yeah.
And but one of the things that bother me about this, and I mean, doing community work and educating and doing the things that we do sometimes can be very, very frustrating, right? It can just be very frustrating because anytime something like this happens, the first thing we do is we look to like blame ourselves. And the first thing people went to is, y'all ruined it with y'all scams. And I'm like, yo, this is something that's been going on since the beginning of time.
Since
This
banks
isn't
was
new.
banks. Like, what are you talking about? Right?
Yeah.
Like this country
So
is
that kind of
this country right here, the one we live in, the one we, everything in, is founded on the discrimination against people that look like us. So
yeah.
the thing about what most people don't understand is that they still live by those founding principles. And so most people don't understand that this country still lives by the founding principles of this country. And I'm not talking about the Constitution. This country wasn't founded on constitutional rights. This country was founded on discrimination. And so that's what most people don't understand. Yeah. And so we are living that, right? Not saying that any country is perfect, but where we live at is founded on those principles. And so if our country is still living, like people would be like reparations start when whatever was happening to you stop.
Yeah.
How are you going to get reparations and you can't get the person, the people, the system that's responsible for you to stop doing what they were doing?
Mm-hmm.
You can't get reparations until you can get people to, you got to get the whatever action was taking place, you got to get it to stop. Right. The reason why the Japanese got reparations after World War II is because they stopped bombing over there and then they started to repair. Right. The reason that people, that are Jewish got reparations from all of those other countries because people stopped. The reason why Black people haven't gotten reparations is because no one has stopped doing what they're doing to us. It hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So how are you want reparations from something that hasn't stopped?
So here's the thing, right? I don't disagree with you, but I think that one of the things that I recognize just through study and reading, and I want to give a couple book recommendations based on this episode in our conversations and we've mentioned some of these books before.
Man, listen, the history of central banking, all of these.
That ain't where I'm going. Where I'm going with this is The Color of Law, right? Because this is a new version. Sure. This is a new version of redlining and all that. So The Color of Law is a good one.
Facts.
Family Properties is another one. Yep. That is really, really talking about exactly what this article is talking about. So those are two books I want to talk about. I'm reading a book right now called Black Power in Palestine. And it's been a very enlightening read. Obviously, what's happening in world events made me pick this book up because it just popped up on my feed. The algorithm bull, they be algorithming. So I'm reading this book, but it's very interesting because when you watch documentaries and you hear people talk about the Black Power movement or even the civil rights movement before it, it's always with revisionist history. But when you read about things that are happening in real time, you see just how tough people had it, some of the struggles and fights, and also just the sheer number of people that made sacrifices for future generations.
Man, listen.
But housing is part of that conversation. Believe it or not, in the Black Power in Palestine, housing and access to capital, right? But also organizing is my biggest thing I was getting to. One of the conversations I was having with our sister Tracy tonight is I was like, we have the skills, ability, out the wazoo, but we're not organized in any shape, form, or fashion. We are just not organized at all, right? I see so many programs and so much money available to do things for our people and for ourselves, but we're not organized enough to take advantage of it. So I say all that to say, don't think Navy Federal was the only person doing this. I would love to hear what you guys think about Navy Federal.
Yep.
Do you bank at Navy Federal? Did you think that Navy Federal was one that was involved in this? Right. It's funny because Navy Federal has a good reputation. Like before this, so I know a lot of people that got a lot of stuff from Navy Federal. So like, I'm not shocked by any bank doing anything, but I was like, wow, if they're doing this, everybody is.
There's no doubt. And like your old head said, you know what I mean, bank local. But an old head that we used to mess with that we don't mess with no more told me this, and it made sense at the time, and it still makes sense. And what he said was the reason why the Black Power movements and all of those movements stopped is not because people weren't still, organizing and doing all the community stuff, because all of the people who actually did it died broke. Right? Mm-hmm. Because what happens is the system choked them out, and then the people didn't take care of them. And so that's right. Yeah. Really, he a generation older than us, and so he was a baby when it was popping, but he understands what happened to those people who were in that mm-hmm. movement. You know what I mean? And so what he was saying is that the system choked them out, and then the people didn't take care of them. He was like, when the founder of the pizza chain got to take care of Rosa Parks and not the people that she, that the civil rights movement didn't take care of her, that tells you what you need to know. When Malcolm X can die broke, his family struggled, that tells you what you need to know. Dr. Martin Luther King and his family, they struggled for a long time until a lot of people came to their aid. You know what I mean? And so, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on of how these people, are not able to leave a legacy for their family. They can leave a legacy in the world, but they can't leave a financial legacy to their family. They got choked out. And this is part of that conversation of, the system and how it works against us. And housing is part of it.
I just want to add this to it, right, though, because part of that is people operating in silos, people only looking out for themselves and not understanding the power that's generated when you have a full community, right? So if I'm out and I have money and I see people like that ilk struggling, like, you're supposed to help. But we had this is where the village mindset and a sense of community comes in. We don't have communities, but that also goes back to organizing, right? So when things become unorganized, right, because a lot of it is because of infiltration. But This is why, the what's that other book I was reading? I read a while ago that talks about post-traumatic slave disorder, right?
That's Dr. George Fry.
Yeah, and how many things affect us and how we behave and treat each other to the point where we operating out of scarcity. So we're not even looking to
help one
build those solid networks in villages.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Power comes in those villages and those communities.
Yeah, power in numbers.
So
literal power in numbers.
Yeah, man. So with that being said, though, man, we're not gonna be here all night. I just want to bring this article to our audience's attention, man. Did you guys read the article? What did you think about Navy Federal? If you are banking there, will you continue to bank there? I saw some folks like, oh, now's the time to go apply. They gotta approve me now because the heat is on. So some folks are taking a different approach. They're like, I'm gonna get
right to it. Like, come on, let's go run up the bag on them. I ain't mad at that approach. Let's go run the bag up on them.
Yeah. With that being said, folks, we appreciate the support as always, man. Another excellent episode, Core. Friday, 7 p.m. we are live. We do our giveaway every Friday. We do a Bitcoin giveaway. The holidays coming up soon. Maybe not this week, but maybe next week, whatever. Maybe get some groceries away or something. As a way just to give back to the folks. But we appreciate the support. We love y'all. Continue to support us. Continue to fight the good fight. Organize. Bank local. Love each other. Take care of your family. Just listen, man. The greatest advice I ever got came from Bill Russell, man. Y'all be knowing the difference between right or wrong. Just do right. It's a bad simple, but it's true, man. Corey, you got any last words, bro?
Nah, man, just take care of each other. You know what I mean? You know, you've been eating long enough, dog. Stop being greedy.
Keep it real, partner, and give to the needy, man. All right, show. With that being said, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep. Game Elevates. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Peace.